Hi there, welcome back to my kitchen. We are making coffee cheesecake. Now I'm making this for Thanksgiving, but I've also made it for Christmas. And just because this is a fantastic cheesecake for any time of the year. I feel a little bit like, I don't know how many of you watch British Bake Off, but there's always that week where somebody says, this is my specialty, this is what I do. And very often, I don't know if it's because of overconfidence, but they end up getting sent home on that week. But so yeah, cheesecake is kind of my thing. I've been making it for years. I don't think I've ever had a flop yet. And to be fair, it's really difficult to mess up cheesecake because it is just delicious. Also, fun fact for those of you who want dessert but are concerned about raising your glucose levels really high. Now, I'm not saying this isn't going to raise your glucose levels. This will. This has a lot of sugar in it. The good thing is it also has a lot of fat because of the cream cheese in it. So it is going to raise your glucose levels, but not as much if you were to, say, just eat a piece of cake. So yeah, so we're gonna get started. I have a 9-inch springform pan. I've wrapped it in foil. I'm actually not going to use a water bath with this. The recipe calls for it. I probably will put a pan of hot water in there with it, but I'm not gonna sit this down in it because it seems like every time I do, no matter how many levels of foil I have on here, it ends up getting in this seam at the bottom of your springform pan. So I've just lined the bottom. I just traced out a circle on parchment paper and I've put that on the bottom. That makes all the difference when it comes to cheesecake. Otherwise, you're having to pry that cheesecake off even if you grease it, it comes off, it's pretty difficult. So if you put this parchment paper on the bottom, it's just gonna slide right off there and it's a game changer. So highly recommend that. So this actually has an Oreo crust. I've already crushed 20 Oreos. And yes, I could put those in the food processor. But no, I don't want something else I have to wash. It is Tuesday before Thanksgiving and I'm gonna be in the kitchen a lot. And if I can save myself from having to wash something, that's what I'm gonna do. So all I did was I put 20 Oreos, whole Oreos in the bag, just took my rolling pin and crushed them till they were just a fine crumb. And on top of not having to dirty a dish, it's kind of therapeutic too, so not a bad little tip. All right, so in a bowl, I'm just gonna empty those out. And then I have half a stick of butter, which I need to throw in the microwave to melt that. And then I'll put it in with the Oreos, give it a good mix, and then I'm just gonna press that into the bottom of this springform pan. It does not need to bake, we're just gonna press it in there, and then we'll get started on our filling. That is, give it a little stir just to make sure it finished melting. We're just gonna pour that in there and that's it. 2 ingredients to make our crust. Oops, and I'm making a mess. Just gonna mix that together well so all of that cookie is mixed in with the butter. Most cheesecakes use a traditional graham cracker crust, and that's really good too. I mean, if you don't like Oreo cookies, you could certainly use a graham cracker crust, and that's just graham cracker and butter and a little bit of sugar. But I find this is a really good matching with the coffee flavor of the cheesecake. Okay, so that's pretty well incorporated. Now we're just gonna put this into the pan. I'm gonna spread it out a little bit. usually use the bottom of a measuring cup just to press that down in there. And for this, you really don't need to come up onto the sides. Just want to press that. It's sticking a little bit. I'll move that around a little bit once I just want to get this packed in there as well as I can. Got some little holes there. I'm just going to cover up. Press down until those are covered. Now do press it into the corners just to help cover up that seal where the bottom of the springform fits together with the sides. I like to have that covered. That does help keep the filling from pouring out around the edges. It's a pretty tight seal, but still. Okay, so there we have it. That is our crust complete. And we're just gonna set that aside and start working on our filling. Okay, so now we're going to assemble the filling. And I remembered to put my microphone on a little bit late, but better late than never. One of these days, we're gonna have a video where the audio, video, all of that comes together to make a a complete video that maybe doesn't have so many technical issues. One day, maybe in the very far off future, but it'll happen. All right, so I have some water. I think that's 2 tablespoons of water. Yeah, I have 2 tablespoons of hot water. That actually needs to be hot, so I'm just going to microwave that for about 30 seconds. What makes this obviously taste like coffee is instant coffee granules. So we have 3 tablespoons of that, and then I'm going to add the 2 tablespoons of hot water in there and let that dissolve while I'm putting the cream cheese in the bowl and getting that mixed together. So into 3 tablespoons of instant coffee granules, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of hot water. Oh my gosh, it instantly smells wonderful. I guess that's why they call that instant coffee. Okay, so I'm just going to set that aside. Now for the base of the filling, we have 4 blocks of cream cheese. And I've let this sit out all morning. So it is room temperature, and that's really important. If this is not room temperature, you're going to get lumps. And it's just going to be really hard to mix out. So room temperature. And I'm just going to let that mix a little bit. Just keep checking my recipe. I've made this recipe several times. I never just assume that I'm going to remember everything, so I always put my recipe out where I can see it. All right, see that? I guess I shouldn't try and talk over that. To that, I'm going to add 1 1/3 cups of sugar. And I'm going to beat that in with that. And then I will add the flour and vanilla. So here I have 2 tablespoons of flour and 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. All right, so let's start this again. Nope, not that one. So we're going to mix in the sugar slowly. Two teaspoons of vanilla. And 2 tablespoons of flour. Okay, I'm going to stop this and scrape it a little bit, and then I'll add 4 eggs. Those also have been sitting out until they came to room temperature. Sometimes the bottoms of these bowls are are pretty deep, and so the mixture doesn't always get that very bottom center. So I like to just kind of scrape that up. Because I could have got a little bit bigger rubber spatula for that job. I'm always paranoid that my camera's going to stop running, so I have to kind of check that out. But wearing bifocals, I always have to do the old lady, flipping my head up to see anything. Okay, so we're going to start that again on low, and I'm going to mix these eggs one at a time, just until combined. And then lastly, we're going to add the coffee mixture. Okay. 1 egg. And again, we're just mixing those until they're just combined. We'll do that for each egg. And now I'm going to add the instant coffee. I'm going to go in and scrape sides and the bottom again. Just want to make sure that all of that is mixed together well and smooth. This is such a nice cheesecake because you have a little bit of the bitterness from the coffee. And then, just the richness of it being cheesecake. So it's kind of the perfect combination. At least I think it is. It's one of my absolute favorite cheesecakes. Okay, so we're just going to mix that, scraping the sides and the bottom. And then I'll put it back on and we'll mix it again for a few minutes. I always loved cheesecake, but it always seemed so decadent and fancy that I thought, gosh, it must be really difficult to make. And then I actually made one and I thought, well, there's nothing difficult about that. The only thing really is, you need a spring form pan, but even if you don't have one of those, you can make smaller cheesecakes in muffin tins with just little muffin papers. So, there's really no reason why, if you love cheesecake, you can't make this. Because you see how super simple this is. And really not a lot of ingredients. Okay, so we're just going to mix this up for a few more minutes. Okay, actually, I think that's probably good. I don't think we need a few more minutes. We just needed about a minute to get that finished, blended together. or something to that effect. It's amazing when I go to speak on camera how I lose all ability to put coherent sentences together. Okay. That is our filling. Put this aside. Now I do have my oven preheated to 325 degrees, and I did put a pot of water in there just to help add some steam in the oven, but also without having to sit this down in water because I just don't like doing that. But the steam will help the top from cracking, as cheesecake sometimes tends to do. Okay, so we're just going to pour this right in. Gosh, I wish you all could smell this. The smell really is incredible. It's like your favorite iced coffee almost that has that smell to it. And then I'll let this sit overnight, and tomorrow we'll add a chocolate ganache. So then it's kind of like a really nice little mocha joe or like a macchiato type vibe to it. Spread that around just a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to put this into the oven, and it will bake for 60 to 70 minutes. Now this will kind of get a dull finish to it, and you want that. I mean, that's what you're looking for. And I usually cook it until the center looks just short of being completely set. In she goes. Okay, so I cooked this for the full 70 minutes. Recipe called for 60 to 70. It took 70 minutes. We've got a few little bubbles on top. That is not a big deal. We're going to be covering that with a chocolate ganache in the morning anyway. I also, as you can see, stuck my thumb right into the cheesecake when I was taking it out of the oven. So again, luckily, we're going to be topping it. Even so, most cheesecakes I do whipped topping around the edges, so that would be fine. You know, that's just, those things happen, so not a big deal. Okay, so this has been out of the oven. I've let it cool for 10 minutes, and now we're going to just take a small knife, and I'm going to go around the edges and loosen that. So just very carefully. This is just going to make it a lot easier for it to release from the pan tomorrow when I take it out. Okay, so this is going to cool on the counter for another hour, and then we will pop it in to the refrigerator, and I'll get it out in the morning and make the ganache and finish topping it. And then probably tomorrow evening I will do some of the whipped topping just to make it look a little pretty. Maybe decorate it with some cinnamon sprinkles, just like you might a nice sweet coffee. Also wanted to mention, I don't know if you all saw my little helper today in the kitchen, but my sweet, sweet neighbor, Debbie, made this for me as an early Christmas present. Has my name on the little chef hat. And actually it has its own little chef hat. So she made this for me, but she's wearing it for today. And I thought that was super cute. And then also she has embroidered my channel name, Victoria Home and Away, on the bottom of it. So I know that that was really extra sweet and thoughtful of her. So yeah, we're very lucky to have such wonderful neighbors. Okay, so we're going to cool this cheesecake for another hour and put it in the refrigerator, and I will see you back here in the morning. Okay, so this has been in the refrigerator for over 24 hours now. So I'm going to take the sides off of it, and hopefully that'll just slide right off there. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and get that wax or that parchment paper off the bottom. Didn't slide off quite as easily as it normally does. Okay, so now I'm just going to do the ganache. And for that, we have 2/3 cup of heavy whipping cream, a cup of semi-sweet chocolate chips, and a teaspoon and a half of vanilla extract. So I'm going to heat this up, and then I'll put these in a bowl and just pour that warm cream over those and let them melt in the bowl. Okay, so I've just let this cream come to just a very slow boil. And I'll pour it over these chocolate chips. And then we'll whisk those in until they melt. And then I'll put the 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla. Mix that in as well. This will need to cool down. This will need to cool down for a few minutes before we actually put it on top of the cheesecake. You don't want to let it cool down too much, or it won't pour very easily. You won't be able to spread it. Okay, so I have most of that mixed well, so I'll go ahead and add the vanilla. And you really want that a uniform color, so you don't want to see streaks of that cream. Okay, there we go. So that's looking really good there. Now for here, because I have it on the plate that I want to serve it on, I went ahead and put some wax paper just underneath. So if I pour this and it does drip down, then it saves me having to go back and clean that up. I'm going to try not to mess with this a whole lot. I just kind of want to pour that on and have it just kind of drizzle over the sides. But I do have my spatula just in case it needs a little bit of help with that. Okay. A little extra in there where I put my thumb in it. Now we have had some drip over the side, and that's fine. I actually kind of like when it does that. Okay, so I'm going to let that sit for a few minutes, and then I'll put it back in the refrigerator, and I'll mix some whipped cream later and decorate the top, and I'll add some pictures to that at the end of the video. Also, so you can see the finished product. I think it's safe to go ahead and take those out. Okay, so I'll put the whipped topping on, and I think I'm going to sprinkle it with a little bit of pumpkin pie spice, just to give it a little bit of that, like a pumpkin spice latte vibe to it. And then that will be that. So that is our coffee cheesecake. That's going to be one of the desserts for our Thanksgiving dinner tomorrow. But I will try and get a picture of that once we slice it. And okay, I went ahead and made some whipped cream. And all this is a cup of heavy whipping cream and a fourth cup of powdered sugar and a teaspoon of vanilla. And I just whipped it until stiff peaks formed. I'm trying to get it in here without making a huge mess. It is the day before Thanksgiving, and it has been a long day in the kitchen, but I do want to get this finished up. Okay, so that should work. So I'm just going to go around the edge and make basically kind of like some little Hershey Kisses, but from whipped cream. That one's a little bit. And one thing that goes really good on these, if you have espresso beans, like some chocolate covered espresso beans, you can decorate the top of that or this with those. Makes a really cute topping. And I'm a little uneven here. Spacing is a little off, but like I said, it's been a long day and I'm tired, so we're going to call that good. I'm going to grab some pumpkin pie spice, and we're just going to sprinkle that on these little dollops of whipped cream. Just for a little added color and flavor. Okay, so there you have it. That is finished. We'll put that back in the fridge and enjoy that tomorrow. I hope you give this recipe a try. If you do, I'd love to hear what you think about it. I appreciate you joining me today, and I hope to see you next time.
You notice it, don't you? You notice it. It's the first thing you saw when he rolled in here, isn't it?
Right.
I want to create like a space.